Welcome back to At Home at Highclere for Viking.TV, and I've brought you somewhere completely different. This is the archive room here for Highclere. There's also two muniment rooms in which other boxes and archives are stored, but this is the main archive room, and this is where I started all my research for the first book that I wrote, which was Almina, Lady Almina and the Real Downton Abbey. When I began writing here, there was actually no electricity on this floor. So I used to come up in the middle of the day when there was some good light from the window with a laptop which I couldn't charge and with no internet to sit here to do the research and the reading and the writing. And then on the winter days, I'd have to leave here about 3:30. I'd run out of battery, run out of energy and run out of light and head downstairs. So this was such a joy when I rewired it. You have no idea how exciting it was to have some light to work in, and then an internet cable. That was really exciting. I've even got a printer, and it just makes it so much easier and so much more efficient for me to sit up here and work, because I don't want to take these papers out of here. It is a fabulous room, isn't it? This is the 4th Earl of Carnarvon's study. I think he used to sit and write up here, perhaps write his books, translate. It's got this glorious golden beaten leather wallpaper on the walls. It is extraordinary. And with the help of Sarah Morris, who helps me with so much of our interior design here, it's got a lovely kind of dirty greeny colour between the wallpaper and the ceiling. And that's really as far as we got. There's a nice parquet floor underneath the rug, which must date from the time of the Georgian house. And there's masses of brown boxes, all of which are labelled, and sometimes what's in them is actually what's in them, and sometimes what's in them is rather a surprise. But that's the treasure, that's the pot of gold, that's our history. And it is an amazing place of peace, which almost sadly now has a phone as well as a computer, so people can finally disturb me. And outside the windows on the hill, I am looking up to Heaven's Gate. I sit in a very old-fashioned, comfortable chair, and when I'm distracted, look out of the window straight up to Heaven's Gate, which is a folly sitting on a hill, 700, 800 foot above the castle. And perhaps in the olden days you could look through the central arch and see the skies behind. There's rather a lot of trees behind now, so heaven in the sky is a little bit hard to see, but maybe that's a good metaphor for where we are living in the world today. That was actually built in 1737 by Geordie, my husband's ancestor. It was built as a tea house, somewhere to go and look back to admire the views, and for us sitting here to admire the views looking up at it. I think it's called Heaven's Gate because of Shakespeare's sonnet number 29, which is a beautiful poem which begins, "When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries." It goes on like that, basically saying we're looking the wrong way, contented least with what we most enjoy. And at the end it says we should be like the skylark, from looking from some sullen earth to Heaven's Gate. So that is Heaven's Gate. So it's an amazing view across the lawns, but my focus should be on here. So this is an archive room. It's about history and geography. And one of the themes I wanted to share today was geography, maps and exploration. Because in many ways, geography is a very generalist discipline. It looks at our world, the geography, the climate, the environment, society, how we've lived in different societies, community and geology. So this house is also about geography, why we live here, why it's been a good place to live for a few thousand years, and how we can live well. Geography is all about maps, and here in some of the boxes I've got the most extraordinary, wonderful old maps, and I wanted to share some of them with you. But I've got a lovely quote about geography, and it says, "Geography has made us neighbours, history has made us friends, economics has made us partners, and necessity has made us allies. Those whom God has so joined together, let no man put asunder, which was said by Robert Kennedy. I'm not sure we've managed to keep to all those precepts, but geography should make us neighbours, yet in so many ways they explain and predict the unfortunate foreign policy, which is completely something man-made, isn't it? Because in some ways geography, the mountains, the rivers, they have no boundaries. You just follow them. And I love Viking cruises because you're following the river, you're following the geography, and you're learning about the history. And I'm going to share some amazing maps with you now. So, let me... Some maps. I think they're always at the bottom. I think that's not nearly big enough. Look. Now you can go there. And this one. And here. And that's what I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for. So they are right at the bottom. So Geordie's family have been amazing travellers. They have learnt through seeing with their own eyes, understanding the pageantry of other people's countries, of other geographies, of other history. And if I just go a little bit further down, what should I pull out? Where's that? St. Christopher's. It's America. Germany and Switzerland. The improvement of the Port of London. Oh, that's Italy, isn't it? So, just map. So I think this is rather a beautiful one because you can actually see the shadings of all the mountains here. It's Switzerland, Lake Geneva, and you can begin to see the roots of the river. You wouldn't really know this was necessarily a country, would you? But in a sense it's bounded by the geography of the mountains. And this was what was used for people to explore and to travel. Amazing. Where's this one? That's Salisbury, which is more specific. Scotland. This is a lovely map of the Scottish Isles, and I can see here the Skye Island, or the Isle of Skye, and all the different little mountains, and they're all named on this map. Isn't it beautiful? Lewis. And I know there's a tour around the north of Britain and around Scotland. And that's one of the best ways to see these extraordinary inlets, which in many ways also resemble the fjords of Norway on the other side. Surrey and Counties Arabia. That one. Channel. I know we've got some old maps of America and Canada. That's the Bahamas. Where is that? Mediterranean. A new map. That's Europe again. Poland and the Baltic Sea. Oops, there we go. So what have I got here? And in some ways the maps and the lines that we've all drawn on this earth are part of our history and part of our arguments, sadly, aren't they, as well? A map of the Austrian possessions in the Netherlands or Low Countries with the principalities of Liège and Stavella. So that's rather fun. That's a part of history. Definitely. Neueste Karte von Polen und Litauen. I'm not quite sure how to say that. Please forgive me. Map of England. Map of England at the bottom. And back to, I suppose, knowing your own country. A cycle route for the cyclists and automobiles of the Pyrenees, section E. That was nice to know they were cycling them as well. I hope they mean that. Quite extraordinary. It's a little view. I sort of think that with all these different rivers to explore through the heart of Europe to understand how people travelled in the past, it is such an eye into the extraordinary world in which we live, to the mountains, to the rivers, to what you can see as you go, and perhaps it's a good way to travel as well. Well, I have now managed to put all the maps away, and David Rymel, our archivist, I hope won't be too upset with me. I put them back in the same order in which I took them out, so there was planning to my madness. But I just wanted to take you back and think that when King Cuthred of Wessex first granted Highclere, where I'm standing now, to the bishops of Winchester, he did it with a charter in Anglo-Saxon and Latin, and of course it marked out the history of the home by using geography, by being points of reference. So geography, which is so often forgotten about in schools today, is so key because it gives us the point of reference. And it begins, Arrest of Hildenhui on Hunigweg and Langvegas on Bregwistan, of Tham Stanno on Squeatwiscan, which basically means that it's beginning from the Hilden Weg, from a Hilda's barrow along to Hunigweg, the honey way, and then it from that stone to the sheep wash. So they're using stones, hills, barrows, honey ways to demarcate what was then given to the Bishop of Winchester, geography and history. And now I'd like you very much to follow me along, and we're going to go and see Orient Room, which is the room we've created devoted to Egypt, so that as we're moving towards the centenary of Lord Carnarvon and Howard Carter's discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun, I can begin to gather all our archives and records in one place, because I want to write his biography. So this room is called Orient. It's on the top floor, it faces east. And so appropriately I've made it in my room which I can collect all things Egyptian. I found this amazing map amongst the maps that I showed you earlier. It's I could spend ages looking at it. It's obviously of Egypt in the mouth of the Nile. It's all the little legend here. The water here is deep, close to the shore. And then you can see how the Nile splits out and defines the geography and the agriculture of old. Here is Grand Cairo and there is Old Cairo. The ancient bed of the River Nile, now dry and called by the natives Beluma, by the Egyptians. It's just absolutely beautiful the way it's been coloured and the way it shows you all the detail of the routes that we've taken, of the journeys we've travelled. This is something a French surgeon who travelled in 1730. Something rather heaps of ancient ruins in his trek. And then a monastery of it, 2 monasteries marked there, 3 in fact. Lake Nitron, monasteries of the Copts, that's what it is. So geography and maps tell us so much about our history, and it's just sailing through the rivers and the Niles and exploring the world. It's not our world, we're just living on here for a time, just as I'm just looking after Highclere for a time. But I'm now going to go and sit down. I've got a new desk and a very nice comfortable chair and my computer, which now works. Again, I've got internet, so exciting, and light. And I'm going to answer some of the questions. There were so many questions last week, so now is my chance to pick some of them up and share some of the stories. I think they're over here. Now, Karen Price from Chester in the USA says, what breeds of pigs do you raise? Well, if you've seen one of the earlier Viking stories, it's the British lop-eared pig. It's a wholly new endeavour and I've really enjoyed it. It's fun, it's fascinating, and I've learnt so much about it. So I hope they have a really nice life here, and it's a really good way for animals to live. So that's part of the ethos as well. Lynn Parks from Grants Pass, the USA, comments that she really likes my Monday morning blog. Thank you, Lynn. I enjoy writing it. It's become part of my week. I'm always thinking about what my next one is, and I tend to start writing it and then editing it. Sometimes I'm ahead, but normally I'm not. And what I'm doing is I'm now doing a podcast every Thursday, and I'm also putting the links to that on the front of my blog and slightly reconfiguring it so it's easier to find and for hopefully you all to enjoy. It is whenever you want to choose to read or to listen, perhaps as you're going in a car somewhere, if you're allowed out on trips to the supermarket or garden centres, and I think some of us are in different parts of our lockdown regime. Stephen White from Morrison, USA says, thank you for your talk on gin the other week. I purchased 2 bottles, and can you put your cocktails up on the Viking website, which I think is a brilliant idea. And fun enough, I think we should put them all up on our Highclere Castle gin website too. I think they're on Facebook, but I think they're a great record, and I could add to the stories, and whenever I'm finding things in the archive boxes, which are always tucked away, and you're looking for something on D-Day and you find something on a cocktail recipe, jolly useful, I could put them all there in one place. But thank you. Raphael from Corpus Christi in the USA says, how long has the land been lived on, and is it the same family? Well, that's, I think, part of what I've been sharing with you about geography, because the land here, this house, has been lived on for a long time. If you go back to the Bronze Age barrows at the foot of Beacon Hill, you could arguably say you could walk in time from 3000 BC through to today, which is 5,000 years. And funnily enough, I was taking the dogs out for a walk in a field the other side of the castle from where the barrows are. And it's so interesting because I can see again in the landscape in the fields where Some of our ancestors have flattened an area, perhaps that was from agriculture. There's a strange dip as if they had built a building in there. I mean, it doesn't to me look natural, it's far too perfect, it's not something that would have happened naturally. So I think there's many more stories to unearth about who's lived here. So Geordie's family has only owned it since 1679, but I don't think of it as owning. I'm just looking after it, and I think we're all just looking after our piece of this amazing world or planet, wherever we live. And I always go back to the people, to William of Wykeham, who lived here in the 14th century, and he looked after Highclere. He made it a beautiful medieval palace. He created beautiful gardens. We're just carrying on just as he is, but a few hundred years later. So thank you, Raphael, for that question. Now, Rona Zimmer, please forgive me if I've said the name wrong, from Wilmington, USA, says, we love seeing your dogs. Do you train them? Well, I think my husband was saying, no, I don't train them. They do. Actually, Stella and Freya, my youngest Labradors, are pretty good at walking to heel and sitting and staying. And they have got used to being photographed for Instagram. So they are pretty good at sitting, staying and coming when called. The Spaniels, like all Spaniels, have a shorter attention span, and if I don't really focus on them, within 1 second they're off on their own business. The older Labradors are calmer and tend to move less, which is enormously helpful. And if I split the sisters up and have one of the sister Labradors with me and not the other, plus one of their uncles, it goes for a more peaceful part of calming training. So the answer is yes and no, I think. Deborah Gilbert from New York says, when pigs wag their tails, is it the same thing as dogs? Deborah, I'm not really sure about what the pigs mean. I tend to listen to their sounds and their kind of grunting sounds to try and figure it out and use my own voice to tell them, because they are quite big. You think of them from films like Babe as kind of sweet cuddly, you can pick them up. Actually, it's not really hard to pick them up. They're not so keen on that, and they're quite big to maneuver around, and if they don't want to go somewhere, I haven't figured out a way of getting them to go somewhere. So I'm not exactly sure what their wiggy waggy tails mean, but I think I'd focus more on their snout and what's that telling you and the sounds they make, because there's lots of different sounds coming out. Claudette from Nebraska asks, will you be writing a book with your pigs as characters? Well, Claudette, I'd love to, but I think I'd also love to write a book about Phoebe, my Arab mare, who made an appearance at the Highclere Castle gin cocktail party, because I think she is a character and she's easier to cuddle than a pig perhaps, but I don't know. It's clearly down on the farm at Highclere. Mary from Illinois, thank you Mary, says, can we enjoy your gin at Highclere this summer? You can certainly enjoy our gin here this summer. We have just created a little cocktail bar made out of wood from the estate. It's just gone up in a temporary fashion by the Healing Herb Garden, because so many of the herbs that we grow here were inspired by, that go into the gin, were inspired by what we grow here. But you can also get it on so many different online websites now in America. And I know whilst life is very challenging, I think we've all turned to more online purchases, so that's definitely one place you can get it. Again, Highclere Castle Spirits, the website, has lots of suggestions. So if you can't get here, please buy it. If you can get here, please enjoy it. Georgina from Lake Tahoe says, I was not able to make it to Highclere in April, which was very sad, and I kindly had a voucher instead. Can I spend this in the gift shop? Georgina, we'd be delighted if you spent it in the gift shop. Sally loves people loving her in the gift shop. She runs the gift shop for me. She is such an amazing woman. She has really built it and taken it on from when it all became too much for me. And it's a fun place, both online And many of the online photographs were taken by my son Eddie over the lockdown period here, so we could put more of it online. And she's always there at the end of an email or phone to help you. I hope you'll find some fun things to buy which remind you of Downton Abbey, from bells to get Carson to come and help you to other things. Peter from San Francisco says, we're coming in August and cannot wait. Do we need to book tickets beforehand? Peter, it's better to book tickets beforehand because we're trying to control the numbers so that everyone who comes has a really nice day out, and it's not too full of people and it's not too empty. It's trying to get the balance. It's really hard to judge at the moment. I think our numbers will be half of what we would normally have in a normal year, but given that we've had nobody here for much of the year, I'm so looking forward to seeing our visitors. I think I'm going to have to give a prize to the first person who comes across the door. Mary Ellen from San Jose asks, do our tickets include, forgive me, that's Hannah's writing, do our tickets include a tour of the Tutankhamun exhibition? They do indeed, because we've got this great one-way system. A few surprises. I've shared one on Instagram about going into Lord and Lady Grantham bedroom rather than just looking in. You walk through it and out into another bedroom. I've got a lovely surprise going around the back of the surgery, meeting a few new characters from Downton Abbey. And then you go down the stairs to the Egyptian exhibition. It's all one way. So it's, I hope, reasonably straightforward. We've got our guides on hand, just scattered. We've got little fun facts where we can. And I hope those who can come have a lovely time. We've got vouchers if your planes are cancelled. Obviously, we're there to help you and postpone your visit to a later date. We've got many more autumn tours. I've got a new tour I created called Castle Tours and Garden Trails, because I wanted just to look back at the resonance of the garden and nature, and how we've all perhaps found such pleasure in bird song and in walks and listening and the appreciating things like the wildflower meadows. We've got a great few days where that's what we're focusing on. So they're running through September and October, and I hope people so enjoy them we can run them again next year. But the next question is from Wayne in Chicago, who says, we're coming to the UK at Christmas. Will you be open then? Well, the answer is we'll definitely be open. I think we all need Christmas. So firstly, a bit of a sell. I wrote a book about Christmas at Highclere. You can get it on Amazon wherever you live. Brad from Philadelphia says, can you stay nearby? Well, you certainly can, Brad. I know Viking do quite a few tours which are based out of Oxford, which is about 30 miles to the north of us. But there are many local hotels and pubs. There's the Pheasant pub in Highclere Village, which is cute. It's just got 8 bedrooms. There's the Wellington Arms, which is another, 6 or 7 miles away in another direction, which has got outstanding food. They have their own vegetable gardens, and they've got a huge emphasis on delivering delicious home-baked bread and foods every single day. There's some hotels as well, depending on what experience you'd like. So it's very easy. We are most fortunate, and I think that, like I'm sure where you live, all the bed and breakfasts and hotels and pubs will be so happy to see you all and be able to open their doors. Peter in Idaho says, are we able to visit any of your animals when we come to Highclere? Peter, we can't really take people around to see all the pigs and the farm animals at the moment. We're very cautious because of the world we live in, particularly at this time. We might try and put some more photographs up, actually. That's a really good idea I've suddenly thought of. Sometimes you might see me coming back with the dogs. I tend to go for an early morning walk when we've got visitors around and then disappear back in. So sometimes I've got a dog with me. And the horses are scattered in the fields around, so you probably will see them as you arrive and as you leave. So I hope you catch an eye of them. They actually add so much to the landscape, they make it come alive. Mary from Philadelphia says, I recently read Lady Catherine. Thank you, Mary, so much. And having already read Lady Almina, I loved both books. And do you have plans for any more books? Mary, I do. I thought I'd have time to write over the last few months. I've had no time to do anything lovely like that. And this is one of the rooms I want to sit and write about Egypt and Almina's husband, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, and look at the story and history from his point of view and his life and growing up and what he went through. And I also want to write another book as well next door, more about the gardens, which I hope you might enjoy as well. But I want to say I think I've come to the end of my time with you today. Thank you so much for joining me at home at Highclere. And thank you so much for Viking.TV for asking me to be part of their week. Thank you.